So glad you're here today. Welcome to StoneBridge Christian Church. And for the very first time, I want to welcome the newest church plant we made in Millard, StoneBridge Millard. Glad you're there today. Today is our first service in our Millard campus, and we sent a whole bunch of our folks down there, and they're having a blast, and we're so glad that they're kicking it off today. Today is the first service in our Millard campus. Next weekend, we have another soft opening, and then January 31st, our grand opening in the Millard campus. And so if you're just kind of still thinking about wanting to be a part of it, you should go down there. It is a great campus and a ton of fun and some great folks there as well. So hopefully you'll do that. We're in a message series called The Church Awakens. We've had 2 weekends now. We got 2 more today and then next weekend as we take a look at some ingredients we believe the church needs to have if we're going to wake up to what God wants us to do. We looked at having bold prayer in our life and the necessity for bold celebration. And today is bold service. Matthew 20 through 28 is kind of a funny story. The mother of James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus with her son. She knelt respectfully to ask a favor. "What is your request?" "Well, in your kingdom, please let my 2 sons sit in place of honor next to you, one on your right, one on your left." And Jesus answered them by saying, "You don't know what you're asking. Are you able to drink from the bitter cup of suffering I'm about to drink?" "Oh, yes, we are able." Jesus told them, "Well, you will indeed drink from my bitter cup, but I have no right to say who sits on my right or my left. My Father's prepared those places for the ones he has chosen." When the 10 other disciples heard what James and John had asked, they were indignant. But Jesus called them together and said, "You know that the rulers of this world lord it over people. Officials flaunt their authority over those under them. But among you it will be different. Whoever wants to be a leader among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first among you must become a slave. For even the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve others and to give his life for a ransom for many." This is a fascinating story. This mom, and in fact, we know that she's the mom who was married to Zebedee. These are the sons of Zebedee. The word Zebedee could also mean thunder. So these are the sons of thunder, which must be an interesting place to grow up in, right? Maybe a loud home. Maybe this was just indicative of how they did life. They were kind of brash and move forward and push forward. And here we see the first recording, as far as we can tell, of a helicopter mom. Dragging her boys, right? She's like, "Hey, let's go up here. We're going to talk to Jesus." "No, Mom, I don't want to." "Yeah, we're going. I'm going to get you the best spot," right? And you know what helicopter moms are, just kind of hovering over their kids. One writer says that helicopter moms, basically, you finish your kids' puzzles, you solve their spats, you cut their applesauce. That's what you do. He says, before that, you were calling their preschool teacher complaining that they had that some kid had cut in line, and it's just that kind of mom. So here's this mom bringing these boys, and not just boys. These are grown men. These are not little preschoolers. They're not great. These are grown men with good jobs, and they're walking behind their mom, and he's like, "Oh, this is terrible. It's so embarrassing." And she kneels down before Jesus and says, "I got a favor to ask you. I'd like my boys to have the best spots available to them. When you come into your kingdom, I want them in the positions of power and influence and prestige." Now, Matthew writes this passage about 25 years after Mark had recorded it. And Mark doesn't record the mom coming in there at all. It's just James and John coming in. It's quite possible that Matthew wanted to make James and John look a little better than they were, right? It's like, hey, these guys are apostles. They don't have bad motives. Let's make it look like mom was the problem. But I'm guessing that probably that James and John were the problem. So here he goes. He says, "You know what it's like. You know that the rulers of this world lord it over their people. Officials flaunt their authority over those under them." That's kind of how it works. There's positions, power, influence. And then he says this: "It's not going to be that way with us. This is not how we do this stuff. This is not how we're going to do life. We're not going to do it. We're going to be servants. In fact, I didn't even come so that people could serve me. I came to serve others." The heart of Jesus is the heart of a servant. Therefore, it is impossible to follow Jesus without acting and actively serving other people. I've told you before, one of my favorite places to eat is Chick-fil-A. I love it because of the service. I mean, they have outstanding food. It's amazing chicken. I get the chicken nugget thing, and I love it. And one of the reasons I love it is because they know how to take care of their store. I mean, you never see it. You never see trash overflowing or grease on the floors, or it's like it's clean. They're working hard. The people are very pleasant. The high school kids are actually polite. I think if you are a parent and you're butting up against the high school years, enroll them at Chick-fil-A. They will come home and they'll say things like this: "It's my pleasure." And you go, "What?" It's like, "My pleasure. Would you like to vacuum?" "It's my pleasure." "Would you mind going to get your brother?" "That'd be my pleasure." See, you don't need to send them to boarding school. Send them to Chick-fil-A. They're going to come back polite and respectful. This week, one of the guys, the new manager at the Chick-fil-A that's going in on Dodge, comes in here and he's handing out coupons and he says, "If you know anybody, we're hiring and we'd love to, and like, wow, Chick-fil-A, we love Chick-fil-A." And he gave me a, chicken sandwich thing, and I was like, yeah. I said, "You guys, how do you do that? How do you teach a high school kid? How do you do that? How do you?" And it's mostly shock therapy, I think, is what they say. They get the dog collar thing, that kind of thing. But they do an amazing job. Truett Cathy said, their founder said, "Nearly every moment of every day we have the opportunity to give something to someone else. Our time, our love, our resources. I have always found more joy in giving when I did not expect anything in return." They are massively devoted to their core values. They have given $68 million to charitable causes in the last 3 years. It's an amazing company. One of the things that happens to a follower of Jesus is that we begin to, we change from wanting to be served and to have people serve us. To begin to move in such a way that we serve others. It's just who we are now. Luke chapter 10, 25 through 37 is a familiar story, an incredible story. One day, an expert in the religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question: "Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life?" Now, that's a great question, right? Like, if you get one shot, like you're interviewing Jesus, that probably is up at the top of the list. Like, if you're sincere, like if you're like, "I want to know what's it going to take for me to get to heaven? How do I get eternal life?" That's a great question. But this guy didn't have that in mind. He already knew, I'm fine. I'm going to heaven. I've got it figured out. I'm doing the right stuff. He was just testing Jesus. So Jesus said, and Jesus knows this. He knows what's going on. "Well, what does the law of Moses say? How do you read it?" Well, the man said, "Well, you must love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your soul and all your strength and all your mind. Love your neighbor as yourself." Right. "Do this and you will live." And you can just kind of see Jesus like, I'm moving on. I don't have, that's right. "Do this and live, you're fine, that's good," right? And he turns and starts, the guy, whoa, wait a minute. And this guy wants to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" Well, Jesus replied with a story, an amazing story. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem. That's important. A Jewish man was traveling from Jerusalem down to Jericho and was attacked by bandits. They stripped him of his clothes, beat him up, and left him half dead beside the road. So here, this guy's listening, and there's a bunch of folks also listening, and everybody's kind of leaning in. By chance, a priest came along, and when he saw the man lying there, he crossed to the other side of the road and passed him by. Well, a temple assistant also walked over and looked at him lying there, but also passed by on the other side. Then a despised Samaritan came along. Now, that's key because, again, despised was mild on how the Jews felt about the Samaritans. Samaritans, were damaged people, according to the Jews. They were damaged physically. They were damaged spiritually. They were people who had intermarried, and they would have been called half-breeds then. The Samaritans and the Jews intermarried, and it's like you're messed up physically, and now you're messed because you're not pure. Now you're messed up spiritually. You don't worship in the right way, in the right place. And so a good Jew would avoid a Samaritan at all costs. In fact, he wouldn't. If you were a good Jew, you wouldn't even walk into their territory. You'd walk around their boundary. You could take the shortcut through Samaria, but a good Jew would just say, I'm not walking through there. I don't even want to come in contact with those people. We might read it like this now. Well, then a despised Muslim came along and saw the man, or maybe a despised gay person, or maybe a despised, and you just fill in the blanks for whatever walls you have built up in your life towards people, right? There's certain things we go with like, and you can fill in whatever color and shape and size and religion and whatever, because we like, well, no, that can't be because those people. So everybody's leaning in at this moment. This despised Samaritan came along, saw the man, felt compassion for him, which I would probably say the rest of them did too. I think the Levite, I think the priest, everybody kind of like, I feel sorry for the guy. I feel sorry for you, dude. But then going over to him, the Samaritan soothed his wounds with olive oil and wine and bandaged them, and he put the man on his own donkey, took him to an inn, where he took care of him. Next day, he handed the innkeeper 2 silver coins, telling him, take care of this man. If his bill runs higher than this, I'll pay you the next time I'm here. Now, which of these 3 would you say was a neighbor to the man who was attacked by the bandits? And everybody leans forward because everybody knows the answer. And everybody wants to know, right? And the guy says, the one who showed him mercy. And Jesus said, go and do the same. And I can almost picture this at this moment where this guy is like, go and do the same. And he just walks away with his head down. And everybody else is going, yes, that's what we've wanted. It's not a religion. It's not rules. It's not knowing the law. It's living this out. And I can just see him kind of high-fiving, like, wow, this guy is so different. Did you notice that the man couldn't even bring himself to say, the Samaritan man? He just said, the one who showed him mercy. And that's just how difficult this was. Here's this expert, a smart guy, knows the law, knows the scriptures, and he's going to try to show up Jesus. After all, he's an expert. Jesus is a carpenter. What is he, and everybody wants to know what Jesus, but this guy has all the answers. It's a great question. What do I need to do to have eternal life? And Jesus says, you know what it is. Love the Lord, love your neighbor. Well, who's my neighbor? So this man gets robbed. He's left for dead. The priest sees the man, avoids helping him. We don't know why he avoided helping. Maybe because he was in a hurry, couldn't get, he has to get to the temple, do some priestly stuff. But I'm a little too, I'll pray for him probably on the way there. But I can't be bothered now. And then another man sees him, does the same thing. And then this Samaritan man takes pity on him, bandages his wounds, places him on his donkey, brings him to a safe place, takes care of him, covers the bill, settles up. The question I'm sure that this man was, the answer he got was not what he was hoping to get. He couldn't bring himself to admit that he had not been a neighbor. The guy fell among the robbers. It's like so many of us who have been in the wrong place with the wrong time, perhaps even with the wrong people. We don't know Jesus, and our lives are in shambles, and we're laying along the road in a mess. Maybe not literally, but perhaps spiritually, and we just can't find our way. You know what this guy on the side of the road didn't need? He didn't need a sermon. He could have just but he didn't even a prayer at this moment. He needed somebody to help him. He didn't need spirituality stuff. He needed somebody to care. So much so that they would do something about it. We really can't say that we follow Jesus if we're not willing to get our hands dirty. Jesus didn't die on a cross so that we could go to church. Jesus didn't even die on a cross so that we could attend one. Jesus died on a cross so that we would belong to one. Now, I'm so thankful for the hundreds of people who give of their time every week to meet needs that are way outside of their comfort zone. We have no idea if this guy knew what he was doing, but he knew he needed to do something. I heard John Acuff say that this year he was going to give 5% of his time away. That's an amazing thing. I'm going to give 5% of my time away to charitable causes. And I began to do that, and I wonder what that looks like. And, I just, best case scenario, I thought, John's going to give 5 hours a week to some cause. That's a huge deal. It's kind of easy to give money because I can always make more money, but I can never make more time. So when I give away my time, that's incredibly valuable. I've even had people say, well, I'll tithe my time because I can't tithe my money. And I'm always hopeful, but when I decide tithe my time, even if that's 10 hours a week, that's an enormous amount of time, right? And there's handfuls of people who can do that, but it's a difficult thing. There are all kinds of ways to volunteer on our campuses each week, from greeting people at the door to preparing our communion to teaching a Bible study class for children, or being a youth sponsor for middle school kids, high school kids. Some people are they come and clean our buildings and lead small groups and serve in our tech team. We have a whole bunch of people this weekend on a retreat with third graders through fifth graders. And men and women have been there the whole weekend with your kids. Now, that's amazing to me because you didn't even want them for the weekend. It's like, yeah, well, $50, sure, here you go. But they love your kids so much that they would give their weekend away to being with them and having a great time. Some of you will go to the Open Door this weekend or design graphics for our next ministry series. Because if we're going to be a follower of Jesus, we must respond as Jesus leads us. And Jesus never leads us to do nothing. The Samaritan is a hero. Though I doubt if he felt or thought of himself as a hero. I think he just thought of himself as a neighbor. I don't think he thought, I'm doing something heroic today. I'm going to be a hero. No, I don't think. In fact, I'm pretty sure that if the Jerusalem Times was to interview the man and say, hey, were you scared when you did this? Because maybe somebody would have beaten you up if you stopped to help them. Because maybe they beat this guy up as a bait to get the rest of it. Right? Anybody who stops. Well, no, I don't think. I was kind of scared a little bit because I really didn't know, what was going on, but I knew I needed. Well, are you normally this courageous? Oh no, I wouldn't say I'm very courageous. Because again, heroes for the most part, I don't think they're more gifted or talented. They're more educated, not necessarily. They just see things a little differently. Heroes have clarity. They're able to see things. It's not so much about their courage, but it's about clarity. So a fireman understands clarity, right? There's a fire. We need to go deal with this. Let's go deal with it. And they don't really have to think about it because they've been trained to do that. But you can have that sense of clarity too when you see something and some need and you need, can I help? And it's just, man, I wish I could, but I don't have the time. I'm a little busy. And after all, I don't even know how to do that. I wish I could. But I think and even this time of year, boy, when people are stuck or going through difficult traffic stuff, if I can help, well, I don't know how to do that, or that's kind of, I don't even know who and we will have, but what if Christianity, what if StoneBridge was more known for our service, right, than anything else? Oftentimes people they know what we're against. And so well, they need to know what we're for. No, I think they need to know that we love them. I think that would make a difference. I think if the world knew that we loved them. Well, how are they supposed to know that? Well, I don't know. It sounds to me like we're supposed to serve them. Well, whoa, jeepers. Are you asking me to No, I'm just telling you that if you were going to have the heart of Jesus, it's not enough to say, what am I supposed to do to get to heaven? It's supposed to say, do I love my neighbor as I love myself? Because if I'm stranded alongside the road, I need some help. I need somebody to come alongside. And I don't even care if it's a Samaritan or a Muslim or a black person. Somebody just help me, right? We don't care at that point. We need somebody to help. This man had a sense of urgency. If we hesitate, we lose that. It's very hard to have clarity in our world anymore, isn't it? Because there's just not a whole lot of understanding what right and wrong is. Now, I don't know what those guys thought as they walked by. Maybe, I should do something. But maybe it's something like, I should do something, but it's just not that simple. It's just not that easy. So they see this guy, and they don't know what to do. This expert should have been asking, do I love my neighbor as myself? So here's the guy. He knew he needed something to be done. This was the guy that fills up that great commandment. He's the Samaritan. Go and act in the same way. Don't narrow it. Don't find excuse. Don't even pray about it. You don't even have to pray about it. When you know the right thing to do, you do it. And that pleases God. Can you imagine the man? We don't, again, this is just a story, so I'm just adding to it. He wakes up at the inn and thinks, how did I get here? How did I get here? And the guy walks in and says, you seem to be doing better. What happened? Oh, you're pretty beat up when you got here. How did I get here? You don't remember? I know I got jumped on the road. The last thing I remember was laying there. I kind of vaguely remember some people walking by, but how did I get here? Well, this man brought you in here a couple days ago. Well, who was he? Well, he's a Samaritan. He's from Samaria, and he's Samaritan. He comes in here all the time. Businessman. Fine person. Samaritan. Do you think that this man who got help from his neighbor feels a little bit differently about the Samaritans? I think he probably I never would have thought a Samaritan would have helped me. What if we see a need and we meet it and somebody goes, I didn't think a Christian would help me. I didn't think they even liked me. That seems so odd that they would help me. I think that would be nice. That if all of a sudden we were known not for what we're against, but how we love our neighbor, regardless of whatever barrier and wall and situation we put ourselves up. It says, this is who, we like the people we like and the people that, what if all of a sudden we were doing the neighborly thing and loving them like we would love to be loved, like that, right? We can do this. So if the church is going to wake up and impact our world and our culture today, it's not because of our rhetoric or the loudness. It will be because of how we love. Let's pray. Thank you for this hero that showed us the way to do life and to go way above and beyond. Or sometimes we get in our little narrow thing and we kind of know where, for us to get messy or dirty, time involved, stuff, and we got a lot of excuses for it. So maybe today would be a day which we would say to you, open our eyes and our hearts to the world around us and the people around us. Present opportunities right now in front of us to be able to serve and to, whether it's at our church or in our neighborhood or a school or a homeless shelter. whatever it is, just kind of pop into our heads right now. You just let us know kind of what's the next step for us to do even today. All right. May we be known by our love. In Christ's name, amen.